a little while ago, I was watching YouTube and I saw a clip of Bill Burr, the comedian, do this. Apparently, there was this show in Philadelphia. Apparently, the crowd were drunk for ages, and they were booing all the comedians off. And Bill Burr got up and he really bagged them for ages. And apparently, he's a little bit embarrassed about it. So he doesn't like to talk about it anymore. But anyway, the footage is online, so I'm gonna hopefully I can get it up, behind this screen. To show you. But anyway, when I saw that, he mentioned some interesting things about Rocky.
Bunch of fucking losers. Fucking Rocky is your hero. The whole pride of your city is built around a fucking guy who doesn't even exist. You got fucking Joe Frazier is from there, but he's black, so you can't fucking deal with him. So you make a fucking statue for some 3-foot fucking Italian, you stupid Philly cheese-eating fucking jackasses.
I'm not going to bag Rocky at all. Like, I love that film. And there's all these stories. We were discussing it a while ago. You were talking about, that article about going against Taxi Driver. Was it? Taxi.
Yeah, there was an article in The Australian that was talking about Rocky as the biggest upset, not in his fighting career, but his upset in defeating Taxi Driver that year for the Oscar as best film.
Yeah,
so I think that ruffled a few feathers at the time, and this guy was sort of, I guess, flipping that on its head and saying that it was a deserved winner for various reasons.
Yeah.
So, probably taking a different perspective on it to Bill Burr, but an interesting one just the same.
Yeah. And I've also heard stories about, I'm sure they're all true, but apparently he sold his dog to fund the film, and then he had to pay a heap of money back to get his dog back or something.
Yeah.
Like, I really like that film and all, but the thing about the Bill Burr story was what Bill Burr mentioned was that it was actually Joe Frazier that used to hit the meat.
Yeah.
Worked in a a slaughtering house. And he was also the person that used to run up those stairs in Philadelphia and train.
Yeah.
And apparently, this article, I'll read it.
Yep.
Right? Where is it? It's not an article. It's just something I found online. It's labeled David Bailey. It says, Joe said years ago on the Howard Stern show that Stallone flew out to LA and asked him about his experiences. Joe said he told Stallone he worked in the meat packing plant and he'd hit slabs of meat. Frazier was mad at Stallone for stealing that scene in Rocky 2. Also, some conversation between him and Apollo, something else. I was the drain man, Joe said in the interview. My job was to make sure the blood went down the drain, but sometimes early in the morning I'd go down that long rail of meat and work on my punching, he told The Guardian. About this time in Philadelphia slaughterhouse. That's how Sylvester Stallone got the idea for Rocky. Just like he used the story about me training and running up the stairs of the museum in Philly. But he never paid me for none of my past. I only got paid for the walk-on part. Rocky is a sad story for me. I'm not laughing. That's it. It's a sad story. Anyway, so apparently that's the case with Joe Frazier.
Philly, with its numerous celebrations of public art, is known worldwide for its icons. For WHYY Digital Studios, we explore the legend behind the legend, memorializing one of Philly's most recognizable hometown heroes. Then we'll talk to a Philly legend in the making. The Rocky statue is one of the most popular Philadelphia monuments. An estimated 4 million people make a pilgrimage to the statue each year. Joe Frazier, the real-life boxer who punched frozen meat and ran the art museum steps, all to create one of the meanest left hooks in boxing.
I don't know about anyone else, but I really feel it's a privilege to be here tonight, and I'm going to try my best to... What? Can't you feel it working?
Apollo Creed. You stole my script. You stole my script. No, I saw it. I watched the movie. You stole my my script. All that was me. I'm the Apollo.
You can put me on for
No,
years.
show me what you can really do. Show me what you can really
You
do.
know my real name, don't you?
No, show me.
Kid Salami.
Yeah, but also, I'm not bagging Rocky. Like, I think he needed to do that because you needed to. I think to write a good story, that's why it's so relatable because it's an underdog story, and those things are real events, and that's what a writer does. So, but I'm just saying, it didn't happen to. But what I was sorry, I'm sort of getting things mixed up here. The whole point of me even bringing up Rocky was, I think the subconscious, right? Well, when we watch films or anything, the subconscious just records this information, and it's the conscious that knows the difference between reality and whatnot. After so many years watching a mainstream film, big blockbuster that's so popular like that on the big screen numerous times, as well as at home when you're bored, you watch films again over and over again. That compared to the grainy footage of Ali, which is you see on YouTube. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ruby.
I think you're right in talking about that. The Hollywood image taking over from the original, and people then a generation or two down the track not being able to distinguish between one and the other. And I think you talked earlier about your father talking about Stallone as this. I mentioned prize-winning
my
fighter
father about 10 years ago, and I said, Stallone versus Ali, who's the boxer? And he goes, Stallone's a boxer, isn't he? Straight away I knew, it proved my point. But just saying, there's also footage of Stallone and Ali at one of those Emmy Awards. In fact, hopefully I can pull that up as well.
Yeah.
But the look, the exchange, it says all that to me. All I'm saying is that after many generations, it's the imagery of Rocky that remains in my own head, even as being the boxer over Ali, because we've seen so much of it, which is I think is really interesting because what were you saying about facsimiles?
So there's a theorist from my university days a long time ago now, but he came up this. He didn't necessarily come up with it, but he talked about this concept of hyperrealism and the facsimile, Rocky in this instance becoming greater than the original.
Right.
Because as we sort of progress facsimile, we only remember what the last version of was.
Yes.
And we get removed from that original. And I think the Rocky example is a good example of this hyperrealism in the sense that, as you've said, that becomes the authentic and original, but it's not. It's a story borrowed from history.
Yes.
And I think that happens throughout culture, and whether it be music's rich, full of covers upon covers upon covers. So I think there's quite an interesting side I go to from time to time. It's the cover. It lists basically a single song by whichever artist and the number of covers that have been produced by, not always by well-known recording artists, by artists with some talent, because they've obviously someone's given the keys to recording studio. But and they're not always done in an original style. I think the people do just wrote covers of things, and I guess when you do that time and time again, you lose the sense of the original. Muzak's a good example, I think, of where the original intent or feel or melody or what have you is lost through pure consumerism, I guess, has driven that, and a tweaking of an original into something else to suit mass consumerism, to fill an empty space in a shopping arcade. All these are examples, like Rocky, of hyperrealism. And they're generally driven by a commercial interest. If you look at them closely, I think Rocky's intent is probably to tell an underdog story, but to also get some fame and infamy for himself, right? Like, he wouldn't have done it without some sort of intention to succeed and and gain some credential in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. The other interesting thing about Rocky is that did you know that he doesn't even own any part of it? I need to check that, but I think I saw a story recently that because the owner of it is doing the next Creed without him, and he's talking about doing a Drago film.
Right.
If
Okay.
I think it sounds about right, an
Yeah.
Ivan Drago film.
I couldn't tell you.
And Stallone was getting upset because he has no say in it, and he believes it's destroying the brand or something, but he has no say, and he wanted a part of it for his family because it's his legacy, but he owns nothing.
Which is ironic, because is he now becoming a victim of this facsimile hyperrealism?
That sounds to be the case.
Which is again, it comes down to, if you read the theorist that I talked about, he said most of this is driven by post-industrial world and consumerism. Because I guess if there wasn't a market, you're not creating it, right? If someone doesn't want to hear that ABBA track or that Beatles track in a Muzak sense, so Coles could play it or your dentist could play it, you're not producing that track, are you?
Yep.
You would just play the original. The point being, the original isn't that it's any good, but there might be several reasons why that's unobtainable, or it might cost them a different rate to getting that facsimile. I'm not too sure. I don't know how the publishing works with those things. Maybe you can maybe elaborate on that. But it's interesting what happens to art when it goes into the machine, I guess. So and again, you can look. You could go anywhere. You could walk down the street tomorrow and see something that has been ripped from somewhere else. I shop sometimes at Uniqlo. They do a good line in T-shirts. I quite like their design approach. They use a lot of stuff from some of the great artists from the New York period, the Basquiat's and so forth. You know, in the 80s.
Sure.
And they reproduce those on shirts. So that's another, I guess, distillation and facsimile of the original, and maybe does it diminish the original? I think there's another concept there. It does probably.
I feel like it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I felt that way going to Europe many years ago and seeing the Mona Lisa up close, behind the glass, albeit, but the original nonetheless, and being sort of small. Underwhelmed.
Yeah, I've seen it as well. It's quite small.
What do you think? It was like. I think the facsimile and the moustache versions actually gave me more joy, because I remember you've done the same. Clearly, walk past and going, okay.
Yeah, it was like that.
You know, and clearly it's a great piece of art, but there are many other great pieces of art.
Yeah.
In the Louvre as well. So that's the one that people go to see, and that I guess that's the cult of the original. People associate and attach some extra validity or credence to it, or
sure,
I don't know, but I think maybe yes, there is an element. Yes, I've seen it, but for me, perhaps diminished by the many replicas.
Yeah.
But like the rest of us being in that commercial world, I said I'm quite happy to part with my $30 or $40 at Uniqlo for one of the artworks that might be somewhere in a modern gallery in New York or some other city.
Yeah.
So we're all sort of a part of that system in some way, shape, or form.
But we are. I can't argue with that. But it just sort of it's disappointing, because it just, you know, you got a character like Muhammad Ali who worked so hard to, you know, to be a boxing champion, and then all of a sudden, you know, you just need to make a film, and then you'll be the one remembered. I just find that hard to grasp sometimes.
Well, I think you talked earlier about the statue of that. That is a bit of a bizarre one, really, because you're showing that fictional character.
Oh, you mean actually building the statue and putting it up there in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, that's another example. You can talk about the loss of identity of those original boxes and who might have influenced that. But then you've got this other layer to that, where this guy is now being sort of hailed as a hero in a city that I don't think is his hometown.
No. Interesting, isn't it?
It is. It's like I think he grew up in the Bronx from memory, but and here he is in Philly in his all American trunks, and as a proud figure in American history, albeit a filmic one, but quite bizarre. I don't know if we've got examples of that
Anywhere else?
It's quite a bizarre thing. I guess that the city argued, I think at the time, if memory serves, that this is more about him bringing tourism in maybe and introducing the city to people rather than him as he's not boxing hero.
Yeah.
Rocky, he's Stallone bringing...
So that's their stance, is it? Is it really?
Yeah, and I've heard that, which is interesting, but it could be bullshit too, you know. But, you know, I kind of like the idea that they're paying him some homage for potentially for bringing some attention to... You know, as Philly as a city hasn't probably been front of mind for a lot of people visiting the States or
I
just
guess,
thinking about, albeit a good city. Like, I don't know, you know, but if you've been, it's an interesting place. But, I think that's what they'd argue the statue was there for, probably as a bit of PR for any criticism that came its way. Yeah. But quite weird. I mean, you can visit places maybe in China and Korea where you might see some statues of people that are demigods, but they're the officials of those countries. G'day to those people that are out there listening from those parts of the world. If you're listening, Kim Jong-il.
It's also interesting, I think, that the Creed character from the beginning, I know this is kind of obvious, but it's still worth mentioning. To me, it's kind of obvious that he was loosely based on Ali because he was this loudmouth, black, opinionated athlete. And the only other, boxer at the time, obviously, was Ali. That's fair to make that?
Probably is. I don't know. Do you think that diminishes Ali's station in life? I don't know that it does. I mean, he seems to have always been on another plane to, in my view, for almost any athlete that I can think of. You know, whether he was depicted by someone playing him or someone in this case, maybe a version of him, facsimile if you like, of him that he did exist for me anyway, on these grainy videos and these talk show videos as this just, I don't know, superhuman guy with quick wit and talent.
Sure,
and,
yeah.
You know, pretty much everything that you'd think. And
true. He's
one that probably in the facsimile doesn't live up.
Wasn't diminished.
No, I don't think so. And nor do they. Well, they don't. They generally don't live up to the hype, and certainly the people that have played him and taken on that character, I think it's a lot to do. It's not even a criticism of those actors. I think that's a lot to do in a 2-hour or 3-hour biopic.
Sure, yeah.
Don't you agree? I
do agree. Yeah,
that's a character with a lot of history, a lot of depth, and even the documentary sometimes just maybe focus on one thing. It might be whether or not he was his activism or what have you. It might be throwing his medal into the river and not taking part in the Vietnam War, whatever it might be. That's a character with a lot of...
You're right, actually. You're spot on, actually. He's too difficult to diminish and to be forgotten. He's done too much.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe Rocky playing the white hero, or if he's the Frazier character, and good choice, maybe. Maybe playing maybe he was smart enough to realise he'd get himself into not be hello. Maybe that he realised he was going to be in a hiding to nothing to play the hero, I guess, in the Ali sense of the hero.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If you'd like to see more content like this, please hit the like and subscribe buttons.